Two influential nations. One big question: which one really delivers? On the left, the dynamic powerhouse USA, and on the right, the historic and globally connected UK. Let's skip the buzzwords and get to the real numbers and facts. Each category earns points, and at the end, you'll see exactly who comes out on top. The result might surprise you. Okay, before we dive into the numbers and all the fun facts, here's a quick mind map of what we'll cover. GDP and economy, government and governance, government spending, trade relationships, financial services, social attitudes and values, tourism and travel, and finally, household income and living standards. Yeah, we're covering a lot, so let's go step by step. Let's kick things off with GDP and the overall economy. So the USA, honestly, this is the big flex category. With a jaw-dropping $31.8 trillion GDP for 2025, it's literally the top global economy. Biggest consumer market, global leader, the works. Though yeah, there are trade tensions in the mix sometimes. Now, over in the UK, growth is there, real GDP's up a bit, and they've got a rock-solid financial services sector. But the reality is their economy is a lot smaller and growth is kind of slowing down lately. In this round, no contest, the USA takes the win. Moving on to how they're run. In the US, you've got the presidential system with that whole checks and balances thing going on, and the federal structure gives states a lot of freedom. But man, political polarization is really a thing here lately, right? Now the UK is all about that centuries-old parliamentary democracy. People actually report higher satisfaction with services, like 74%, which is pretty wild. But public trust is on the low side and the deficit's not looking great either. All in, the US edges out here because, despite the drama, its system gives a lot of autonomy and balance. Alright, let's talk about spending. The US, for its massive size, keeps spending a bit more contained, at least compared to these numbers, and its pre-pandemic spending wasn't as high as a lot of countries. But yeah, those deficits aren't vanishing anytime soon. The UK, though, is spending 46.6% of its GDP, which is pretty high, even above the OECD average, and that's a jump from where they were just a few years ago, even with a slight deficit trend down. So the USA keeps the edge, it just manages that spending a bit more tightly. Oh, and here's something cool. Did you know the US-UK trade relationship is actually worth over $200 billion a year? I mean, that's one of the biggest on the planet, just figured you'd want to know. Now, onto trade relationships. Here, things get a bit complicated and honestly a little funny. So US data says the US has a $14.5 billion surplus with the UK. And the US is crushing it with services exports. But then you look at UK data and suddenly it's the opposite, a £71.4 billion surplus with the US, and imports from the US are growing. So, who's right? Well, both, kinda. There are some statistical quirks, but at the end of the day, this partnership is super tight and both sides depend on each other. Let's call this one a tie. Okay, financial services, this is where things get spicy. The US has, like, the world's biggest financial markets, and honestly, if you know anything about Wall Street, you get it. But the UK's niche is insane. £28.9 billion in exports just to the US in services, insurance, and all that. Their telecommunications exports are way up too. It's a smaller pond, sure, but wow, is the UK swimming fast. For sheer international financial services, this round, you gotta give it to the UK. Let's talk social attitudes and values. In the US, you'll find just about every opinion imaginable, lots of diversity, super strong entrepreneurial spirit, but yeah, way more polarization, especially on social issues. The UK leans more towards a big government providing more services, and there's a wider consensus on things like same-sex marriage, abortion, and social welfare. Sure, they have conservative pockets, but generally it's a lot more chill on these topics. In terms of social cohesion and progressive values, the UK takes the win here. Alright, tourism and travel next. The US is still the big draw, especially for UK tourists. Those numbers keep ticking up past 2.6 million by August 2025. The UK, their tourism sector is on the rise too, but numbers are still smaller compared to those US visitor stats. So for sheer size and pull, the win goes to the US. And last, household income and living standards. The US brings it home with higher average incomes and that massive consumer base. The UK's household disposable income is up a bit and savings rates are healthy, but overall income levels are, yeah, not quite in US territory. So for this one, the US definitely leads. So if we chart this all out, you can really see where each country flexes. The US just dominates the overall economy, household income, tourism, and governance, while the UK is a powerhouse in global finance and social consensus. And it's wild how close they are as trade partners. So, bottom line, if you're talking big, bold global leadership and economic might, it's the US all day. But if you want top-tier financial services and a society with more consensus, that's where the UK shines. Honestly, they're both crucial to the global scene, and their strengths totally complement each other. If you found this comparison helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more international economic insights and let me know who you think comes out on top in the comments. See you next time.